set? Okay, with the hour being after 7 and a quorum, we'll open the meeting. First item is we have two sets of notes, June 21st and July 19th. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Okay. Next up, we have a 7 o'clock Northridge Farm residence hearing. Anybody here? Northridge? Nope. Okay. We don't even get the applicant either, huh? Let's raise the bond rate. All right. Planning board will hold a hearing on August 16th, 7 p.m. main meeting room for bond release street acceptance Northridge Farm, Warren Lane. And we sent it out to all the residents. And what we have from the engineering department, final punch list is complete, all bond items, so it can be put forth to town meeting. So, all right, nobody here, make a motion to release the bond for Warren Lane.
I'll second.
Give it a second. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done.
You see the street acceptance? Can I
It's
add
not
that
for
to it?
us, you just set it on, but it's all okay. 7:01. Not gonna roll here. Alright. We had a continued public hearing for 100 Rustic Road tonight, and we have a letter from the engineering company on behalf of his client, Susan Brissette. He's requesting a continuance for the public hearing till scheduled for August 16th. We're working revised plans, we'll be ready at the next meeting. However, given that the summer schedules, possibility member absences and potential delays, we'll ask the board to extend the time to act until September 30th. So make that in the form of motion to September 30th. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0-0, so we continue to that, and do we have a date, what's September 2nd meeting?
The September 20th, there's 3, 4 on.
Is that many on?
There's
Are we better off on the first meeting?
Pinnacle.
What's on the first meeting?
No, we won't. Scenic Road, Brenda, Pulte.
Are we better off then? The second one? Okay, what time?
7:50.
Okay, we will continue this public hearing without taking testimony on Rustic Road until 7:50 p.m. on September 20th. There is no notifications, that will be the only notification, so September 20th?
Yep.
7:50, continued, okay. Next up, Atlantic Court.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kid's gone.
Just 1 week. We come back on Monday.
It's not bad.
Let's go. I gotta get up.
Hmm?
Come on, Daddy.
Yeah.
No, it's just getting cake on. It's like, this isn't the Yankees Red Sox game. This is like playing Tampa Bay. We're gonna do it like under 2 hours.
Jeez.
Okay.
Right.
The hour being after 7:05, we have a hearing, a residence hearing for Atlantic Court Extension. Is there anybody here from Atlantic Court that wishes to speak? No? All right.
Oh, John.
Well, one?
He's waving to his friend.
Is he waving to Truax or is he gonna speak?
Is that Bobby?
Bobby.
Bobby, are you coming up or you just like gotta go to the bathroom and you're leaving with your hand up?
You are
That was
excused.
You can go.
Get a hall pass from
Okay.
Kate.
All right. For anybody, that's Robert Walsh, local builder. All right, with no objections, I'll make a motion to release the bond and send it on the street acceptance.
Second.
In a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Done. Okay. And now, we at 7:15 now, we're a little ahead, good. Do we have some other stuff?
You can do.
Give me one of the A and Rs.
A and R for, oh, wait a minute, how about High Plains Street?
Did Maggie weigh in on this?
We got a date?
Hmm?
We got a date?
No.
Oh, they wanna get-
Seems like
Sarah
you wrap
wants this,
something that fast.
Sarah
you just-
wants this done by 7:16.
Like a little kid on Christmas morning ripping his presents up. These all the same?
All right. Okay,
All the same, right?
we have now
Let's share.
Eastern High Plain, we're creating two lots, one 21,502 for Lot A and one for Lot B, 20,881, with Lot B having frontage on East Street
Your favorite
for
person.
the amount required, and the existing single family is keeping its address on High Plain, and you now meet the setbacks. Anything you wanna add, John, you all set?
Well, the only thing I wanted to add, Mr. Chairman, was, excuse me, I'm just asking if you would waive the fee, since we paid the $900 on the original submission, thinking that the board would be able to sign that plan with the note that was on it, that the building to be removed, but obviously now, or the portion of the building that needed to be removed. Obviously now it's already been removed. The new owner is here, great for us, and, but anyway, that's all from on-the-ground survey, so the portion of the building that needed to be removed to make the 30-foot setback to the rear has been done, as well as the deck's been made smaller to meet the 30-foot setback. But, you know, it's $900, it's a lot of money, so we already paid it once, you know, but paid it the second time.
Yes, and everybody, when they have something, they always want their money back, in my opinion, but we always talk about raising the rates and so on and so forth, but we did go through it once, John. I know it's a lot of money, I also know how much the other lot's going for, which is a real lot of money, so let's put thing in relative. If you're asking me, I'll make a motion, I'll ask the rest of the board if they wanna, are they in favor? All's in favor of waiving the fee?
Why are they here again for that?
Because they had the garage that didn't meet the zoning, it didn't meet the 30-foot, they had to cut the garage off, and there was a deck
over
there
here?
too. And we had to reject it because of that.
I need a second
That
on that.
really doesn't jeopardize you signing an A&R plan. I don't want
You
to get
read,
into it, but
John,
there's.
I saw what you got from our former town planner, which didn't make me too happy. I also read our rules and regs, if you read within our zoning bylaw, it's the same thing, we're well within our rights.
But oftentimes.
But I'm not gonna, it's not gonna get you 900 from me, I tell
Okay,
you,
okay.
all right? But I'm gonna
I
ask the
wanna get
rest of
into
it.
We're just saying it's a lot of money. You've already reviewed it once.
Making
You
a
know,
motion.
the two changes are that
Yeah,
the
make a
portion of the
motion,
building that was
to
shown to
refund the
coming
money,
down has
or
been
waive the
taken.
fee.
So
We need a second, I'm
You're
making
making
a
a
positive.
motion to waive the fee.
Yeah, in the positive.
Yeah,
I need a
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of waiving the fee, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So, all right,
Thank you.
all right, I'll make a motion to endorse a plan of land shown on a plan by Gloucester Engineering, called number 2 High Plains, showing lots A and B meeting the requirements of the zoning bylaws with frontage, setbacks, and so on. Do I have a second?
Just frontage, okay. Second.
Any discussion, any questions, or?
This is a tough intersection.
I don't wanna raise a question that doesn't need to happen, but
Go ahead.
with the improvements that
It's being reworked.
Pulte's gonna
Yeah.
do, is that gonna affect any
No.
setbacks? Nothing?
No.
And even if it does, it's not their fault?
That's not theirs, yeah.
Okay, okay.
I think it is a tough intersection, no question. I
But at
think the
least-
This
way
is
it-
his land.
I
But
think-
at least the entrance is over from East Street,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
second
we'll be
lot.
over there.
Exactly.
And I
So,
think the way that street
I was
is
worried they were gonna
proposed
try
to
to-
be
Once they're gonna
reworked,
rework it, it's gonna
it
be
will
better.
help.
Yeah, okay. So we have a second
Yep.
on that?
Yep. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
We signing them all, or just?
No, I
one?
just need the paper copies back left. I just signed mine. 16. I have the folder back.
You got another A and R there?
Yep.
I'm gonna say it again, Kate, when do we get our stamp?
Wait a minute.
You have to stamp that spins in case people aren't there, right?
Get another Sharpie, another Sharpie.
That one had it. Where is it? Here it is.
You know, if we had a stamp though, like what would happen if he wasn't here?
You'd have to have one of those rolls.
Hey, actually, this one's not good.
Yeah, I know. Pointy.
It's not good?
It's not good.
It's real pointy.
Just doesn't have an handle out there.
We have in front of us an A&R plan by Dunn McKenzie for, what is it, Rockville?
8 knots.
8 Knot Road, subdividing existing lot. Residence A, which is 30,000 square feet with a, what do you call it, it's 150 frontage, 30-foot side yard, rear and front, and 20-foot side yard. All right, this is
It's a nice line.
why the lot's that long, but what you're doing is there's an existing house right in the front, and they're cutting off towards Winter Street.
So this is
It's all
here,
that, just
and
the
it
way
used to
the lot
just be
Yeah,
this
this is the way the
one.
lot, if you look at them all, they all
Yeah.
kind of
They
go,
wanna create
it's all like
this, but they probably
wetland,
had
it's
to grab
way back,
this.
so it wasn't good to anybody, so.
You know what I mean? To
Oh.
make their,
How is it connected? This,
It's one big lot now.
where, what happens here?
it's one big lot now? Cause it says B
Yeah.
and A.
Well, they're making it to B and A. This is
One big lot now?
Yeah, and
Okay.
here's your cut
And
right
you're
here.
gonna cut it there?
Yep.
Okay.
This,
So-
this sliver here is, belongs to lot A, correct?
No, B.
This one is B.
No, B, no,
This
it
is
belongs to
B.
B. Yep.
How does
Why is this separated
sliver
off? Why is that-
connect with
What
A?
is this? That little sliver on the side there, what is that all about?
Is that a utility access?
It's, might be just on their plan, but you got from here over, it cuts it off. You can see it goes down, so I
I'm
think,
just wondering why they
I think it's,
made a point to,
it's probably part of the lot.
So this whole thing is B?
Yes.
Yes.
If it's all B, okay, that's fine.
And if you see it, it kinda goes up, and then it goes over to the right, and then up towards the Aaron Road on Notch.
150 frontage, right?
Yeah. They're showing the 150 at the,
50.
at the
Setback.
30-foot
The
setback, yep.
Okay,
fine by me.
It's
Why?
okay to me.
I know. When I heard about it, I says, wow, I can't believe someone never did this before, or at the start, so. I'll make a motion to endorse.
Second.
Do a second, any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, okay.
I looked at that online, I thought it was this piece.
You asked me that every time.
What is up here, just other?
There's another
Should I
crazy
keep
box.
the 10 every time?
Yeah.
There's a whole box of them.
It's showing, okay.
I got it. If I had one name like that. Any other little thing we need to do, Kate, is that the rest of it can wait? Kate,
I'm sorry?
is there anything else in these other 4 ones that's worth hanging out?
Can you do High Oaks extension if you want?
Why don't we just,
Or you can set the bond for Baker.
why don't we do High Oaks and Bacon, we can sign later,
Okay.
bang those out.
Want to do
Whatever you got.
Let's do Baker.
Can I have that folder back?
Thank you.
All right. Baker Street, we have, our town engineer is gonna set the bond. Maggie came up with a calculation of $140,282.40. So what we typically do is just round, we'll just round up to 141. like
You
that.
said 142.
It's $140,282.42, so I'd just say go on the next thousand, $141,000. Yeah, I'll make a formal motion, $141,000. Have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, that's set.
I just want to write it.
Just sold tickets. All right. We have a request, two things, on High Oaks 4, they'd like a bond reduction, and they also have to extend their time. So, which one has he done it? Does Walt say it on here, Kate,
I'm sorry, what? What's that?
where he gives us the extension?
I think it's in that letter.
I don't see anything here from him.
He did, he said he would do it through whenever the board wanted.
Is that the same one?
Yeah.
July 25th? Oh, he doesn't extend it at all?
That last sentence doesn't say it?
We would also, no, we'd also request $500 to reduce the bond, be waived fee, as we pay the part of the street, etc. I don't know. He never asked, gave us an extension. Did he? I don't see it.
Can I see the letter, please?
The blue one?
Yeah. Thank you. He didn't, actually, he said that,
Yeah, he just wanted
it's
his,
set to expire on September 3rd, and they asked that it be reduced before it expires. I don't know why you would do that. That doesn't make any sense.
well, we can't, because we'll just leave it as it is.
We can.
Yeah, we can leave it as it is, because the bonds, they don't have a, what do you call it? They're covered until they're released.
Correct.
So we'll just leave it, because we don't meet before September 3rd.
We need September 6th.
So we'll just leave it, you can tell them, hey, Greg, you should have given us an extension.
So you don't want to, okay.
I think I'll hear that one. Okay, and we can sign the other two.
We can't give an
So
extension.
no vote?
We can't give an extension on someone's behalf like that.
No, it's a
That was their
bond.
intention.
The
You don't want
bond,
to release, you don't want to reduce
Release the
it
bond.
till
Oh.
it's- You don't want to do that?
yeah, the bonding company won't release it until it's all set,
Oh,
even though
okay.
there's a time frame. They'll hold it till
Right.
we say it's okay. It's like a contract bond, until they get this drop dead final. All right, we're gonna do Pemberton.
Yeah, this got really confusing, Jack. Hold on a second. This was, comments were coming in today. Of course.
Shouldn't be allowed.
No.
Should be a 24-hour rule.
People don't know. Yeah, they don't.
Residents
They
don't know.
They don't. And that was what made it
This
hard.
20
These are the
page
latest
brief.
comments. I'm sure
I
they're
don't
right.
mind residents, but I mean like
Yeah, like this.
when town agencies come in and fire and.
We don't have everybody's, okay. And these are neighbors who were against it.
There's
So,
always a
this is all to Jack?
Yeah.
Just gonna read them?
You wanna read all this?
All right, you have the folder, Kate?
Do you have plans? Yeah, okay.
I do. Share with Mark.
Same thing.
I'm prepared.
One time I forgot my stuff. I brought a pen.
Oh, that's good.
I had 3 pens.
Oh my gosh, you're so prepared.
The hour being after 7:15, we have the continued public hearing for 173 Pemberton Street subdivision. That being said, the applicant, and just so you know, you only have You good? Okay.
Good evening, Rob Truax of GLM Engineering Consultants. Since our last meeting, we had some comments that were still remaining with the town engineer. And since that time, I did have a meeting with her, spoke with her today via email, and met with her a couple weeks ago, went over all the comments. I felt like we ironed everything out. I believe you do not have a letter from her this evening. That's what she indicated today, but she did tell me just to let you know that we did meet. We went over most of her issues. I did submit revised plans 2 weeks ago, a couple minor revisions on the plan. Really nothing in substance. One on sheet 2 of 5, I did put on the intersection angle so you could see that. There were some questions about that. I did remove 2 of the waiver requests, and that was the one for the certification of the monuments and the one for the performance guarantee, so we took those off the plan. The rest of the waivers are still requested. If you want, I can briefly go over what the remaining waivers are, just to refresh your memory if it helps.
Go ahead.
So the first one is to allow the proposed roadway to remain private. The second one is section B6, roadways, request to allow the pavement width of 12 feet, required width is 26 feet. As you know, we put in some pavers along the edges to support the fire apparatus or anyone who has to get in there for a 20-foot width. We're requesting a waiver from curbs and gutters. Waiver requested to construct a roadway with no curbing. Request a waiver with no sidewalks. Request a waiver to allow no paved cul-de-sac turnaround. Waiver for the traffic impact data analysis. And the last one is the intersections. I'm not sure this requires a waiver, but we put it in there, requesting the waiver to allow the street constructed with a 30-foot rounding, and that's on the acute side as the road comes into the 63-degree angle. And I believe it's in your regs that you can actually approve that. I don't know that it's a waiver, but we put it in anyway, just to be safe. I think that's it. I think we're at the end there. I don't think there's any more issues left outstanding.
Okay, we have some comments from different boards at August 16th meeting, or August 16th date, August 14th meeting. Board of Health voted to approve the proposed subdivision and noted that all trash and recycling must be placed on Pembroke Street. From the police, dated August 9th, Walpole Police does not have any public safety concerns in relation to the traffic in this area. And those are our comments. We didn't have anything from Margaret Walker, town engineer. Let's see. There's something from Eric Warmer. He was at Bulker Street, and I read the letter you received from Tara and Karen Mulroy, and I'd like to go on the record as agreeing with the sentiments with the cul-de-sacs being our backyard will not be consistent with the neighborhood, and place the proposed house is such a less desirable location. So that's one. From Cynthia Smith, 64 Bulker Street. I'm right in regards to planning board meeting that took place on June 21st. It was voted that the neighbors would like a privacy of barrier trees. I'd like to clarify this would include abutting neighbors on Bulker also. This notice from the next door neighbor, Mary Chenevert, in favor of the long driveway. And that was dated, the note. Friend, oh, I'm sorry. That's Bob Walsh sent that through. Rennie Rossi. A little convoluted thing, but let's see. I think it's the same one. Just want to make sure. July 24th, from Tom and Karen Mulroy. It says the owner of 173 Pembroke Street has appealed to the ZBA for hardship due to lack of frontage. The lot's attorney spoke to the fact that back in the mid-80s, there were 98 lots were changed to the zoning to RB by special town meeting, and per the owner's attorney, 96 owners were granted variance. Well, that's not correct. The lot our home sits on would be one affected by the zoning change, and both houses being built in 85. If both were built in 1985, wouldn't both follow the same rules and regulations set forth. At the meeting of the 21st, The chairman indicated two-lot subdivision with a cul-de-sac was a legal option. However, approving the request variance to that subdivision invalidates the subdivision and brings it back to a single-family home with a long driveway. Exactly what was already rejected by the ZBA. It's our understanding, and for all to voice their own opinion, that the only abutter that desires the layout of the lot is the owner. The other three butters, as we understand, are against it. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing, so I don't wanna read everything word for word, only because I don't wanna miss something. For us, a layout that will have our home especially looking directly into their front windows, and they will be looking into our rear windows. A layout more commonly found in an urban community, not in Walpole. Based on the current plan, regardless how thick the trees are, may not fill in. Each time they turn around the driveway out of their cul-de-sac, all vehicle lights will shine the same direction. In the ZBA meeting of April 5th, Member Hills noted about the frontage is it must be consistent with the neighborhood, and went on to say the main character of the surrounding neighborhoods. To place this structure that far back off the street would not conform to his words. In 2007, the house on our other side was flipped, and the addition to the structure was built too close to our lot line. The town employee came out to perform the inspection, told it was only over minimally, and did not force any changes to be made. We should only have to accept the infringement on one side, not on both. At the next meeting, the elected officials are allowed to determine the requested variance and agree to the structure being built on this lot. Is our hope the planning board and the zoning board will reevaluate all possibilities, keeping the neighborhood setbacks harmonious, and to ask why would you want to go there if you're not wanted. It's a question of all builders, not just high-profile locations. Thank you. And let's have this same one, double copy. All right, with that being said, I've read everything in there. The only issue I have, Rob, right now with missing thing is from Maggie Walker. So to go on and have a plan and go, you know, this is me speaking, 1 of 4, without having her final comments.
Can we approve subject to? Could you vote subject to? I mean, her last comments were, I mean, she had conditions in their approval. The engineering items have all been resolved. It doesn't,
Some of us still have questions too.
Okay. But I'm just telling you my own opinion. It's I'm 1 of 4 here, but without her, been around here with me long enough, whether I like you or not, we go by the rules, and without me, I cannot approve something where we give it to the town engineer, and I have nothing here to back up. So it's now your word.
still have her, you have her previous comments, and there are,
Yeah, these are-
everything in there is, there's a lot of things in there, just mostly conditions of approval that she was looking for, and we didn't object to any of that.
I'm not arguing one way or another, but we have to give it to the town engineer. I'll put it from your perspective. Someone could appeal it based upon us doing something that was missed or something like that. That's all. So I always take the smart route, meaning to protect the town from appeal from doing something stupid, which would be, to my opinion, given approval, a tentative approval, or subject to approval without having the final say from the town engineer would be a little.
It seems a little unfair, because we, you know,
Also,
you have a
you've withdrawn some
two-week,
waivers, so
you have a
the plan is
2-week window that we have to submit, and we have to adhere to that. And then we come in here, we give our plans 2 weeks, and we come in here, we don't have comments. I mean, that just doesn't, I mean, we have to abide by them, why doesn't everyone else? I don't get that. We're being punished for doing the right thing. That's all I'm saying.
Understood, okay? But also, we don't control, engineer's not under our control.
I agree, but you still have the control to
No,
have
no,
comments.
if you're gonna ask us because someone didn't do their job to just kind of smooth things over. I don't play like that, Rob, but I will say something. If I was on your side, and I've been on your side on some things on my own, I make sure the stuff's there ready, so it would have been prudent for someone to have talked to Maggie before
I
tonight.
did talk to her, and she said she wasn't gonna have them tonight.
Oh, so you knew ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, what can I do about that?
Well, then complain down the hall instead of to us, right? I mean, you're not even speaking
Who am I
of the
gonna complain to?
Well, you know where you can complain, but it's like, this ain't gonna you know, for me, you can complain all you want, but it's not, we don't get control, but you knew ahead of time, so I can't help that. If you do have an issue with not timely, then you have to take it up with their supervisors, however. But
So what are you suggesting?
I know you won't, because you don't wanna get killed on something else.
I complain about it.
So why
No.
don't we have her comments?
Well, they did a lot of changes to the plans, so without her comment saying the
Because you
plans.
just talked to her today. She
There's
doesn't
only
turn things
minor
around.
comments.
Oh, you were asking for her to submit comments back on questions that you just presented to her today?
Oh, no, I submitted this 2 weeks ago. I submitted it for the deadline. You have a 2-week deadline prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
All this
There was nothing
information.
new
There's new
within the
stuff.
last 2 weeks, though, is what
No,
I'm saying.
nothing new in the last 2
He
weeks.
complied with it,
No.
just at
So,
our
right?
end,
No, I just sent her an email
get it done.
and asked her if she was going to be at the meeting tonight and if she had comments. And she said she was not gonna be here, and she did not write her comments for the revised plans. So, I don't,
We don't have a mechanism for that?
No, I mean, she makes the comments, it's like not having it from the Board of Health or something, they're supposed to give us comments. Rob talked to her, knew it ahead of time.
maybe she doesn't have any.
Well, we could take 5 and go grab her right now out of Conrad's, right? At a retirement party?
Oh, that's what she is.
Huh?
She's at the retirement party.
Yeah, you wanna do that? Be a little more than 5, but we'll find her.
That's why she's not here, okay. So what's your suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
No, we have, other people have comments, I'm sure there's people here, but I'm just on that Maggie, just that one, if everything else was perfect, I'm still stuck with that. But else, Shara has some issues, so,
Yeah, so still have questions on the frontage. I looked at the letter that you submitted, but what it talks about is the rear lot, where there's an issue getting frontage on the rear lot. So the front lot,
Excuse me, it's really hard to hear in the back row. Could you just speak a little louder?
sure.
Because of the microphone.
The front lot should have frontage on the new road, not on Pemberton.
That's frontage on both. Correct.
But it needs to have legal frontage on the new road. You can't have a subdivision without the legal frontage.
It has it at the setback line. So you can have 80% at the front line and 100% at the setback line. And the rear
But
lot
Pemberton
has-
is not the new road created from the subdivision.
Excuse me.
This lot,
Oh, this lot?
yeah. Where's the frontage here?
your frontage for the existing house?
Lot A.
Where is that?
It's on both roads.
Okay, and it meets the frontage requirements for the new
And
road?
it's actually at the setback line.
At the
the
30-foot back.
100%. 80% on the road, 100% at the setback. The rear lot has frontage all the way around the cul-de-sac and all the way back out
No
through-
problem with the rear
Okay.
lot. I see no problem. But, Mr. Chairman, how you can do that? You call that a corner lot, even though that this house couldn't be in existence without the subdivision created with this new road. So is it not that this is, you need to have frontage on this
Yes,
road?
and he does.
And
Yeah.
you need to have the required frontage,
Correct.
which is
What's its residence B?
125.
Yeah.
And you call this the front, it has to be the front,
Yep.
regardless of whether, so this should be 30 foot.
Yeah, and I don't got my plan. What's the distance between the house to the back line?
The back
To the
line,
rear
I
line
think,
or
is
to the
okay.
sideline?
The back line, which is gonna be the new, to the left side of the house exists?
That's, in the bylaw, we're allowed to call that side yard. We have you have a letter in your file from Rackman and Sawyer that talks about the setbacks and talks about the frontage of that lot. It was submitted with the
Talks
original
about on land
submission.
located to the rear of an existing
And that was
lot.
reviewed by the building department, I believe. I mean, they've seen the same plans, the same submittal.
We have no comments from the building department.
Oh.
We sent them to them, we've never got comments.
But then obviously they don't have an issue with it.
No, because they just don't comment. The issue will come when
So,
they're,
but we have a legal opinion in your hand from Rackman and Sawyer and Brewster, which
But
was
if
submitted
this
with the
one-
original
one
plans.
house, I would agree.
what is
Day
it?
one.
What is the
But
distance
it
for the,
has, this has to be the front in order for this lot to be in existence.
Looks like 20.84,
No, because if this was in existence, then this becomes a corner.
if I'm reading that correctly.
So on the left side, looking at it from Pemberton, you have 20.6.
yep,
If we
And then to the
approve it,
cul-
then
to
this
the
becomes
right,
a
you have
corner lot
22.2
and
feet.
gets the benefits of being able to take both.
So those are called side yards, so they would only need to be 20 feet.
but they're not side yards if your
That's
frontage is on the new street.
And I
You
think
can
it
claim
is-
your frontage and your number of your house on Pemberton. and you can call that side yard. You need to read the legal opinion. This came up day one, and we went out and got a legal opinion, and we weren't even gonna submit without that. And we had this discussion at the preliminary. We got a legal opinion, we sent it to you. There's been no objection the whole time the plan's been
The only
submitted.
thing we had at the preliminary was the fact that this house will have to conform.
No, we requested an opinion, you wouldn't give us one at the preliminary. You said we don't give legal opinions on preliminaries. So we went out and did our definitive, got a legal opinion, we submitted it to you. There's been no objection to that from day one.
Okay,
This plan's been in here for,
I questioned it last meeting, I'm pretty sure.
I don't recall that being an issue, that the setback was an issue.
You need 30 feet.
It has frontage on both streets, but that's side yard.
Yeah, but now it's fine if that was a corner lot on existing, it was all there, but it's not, you're cutting it up. Well, by the time we get Maggie's back, we can ask this question too.
That's fine.
Send this to Copeland Page.
Because I thought, you know, according to our bylaws, the front of a property is, you know, is the property line dividing the lot from the single street right-of-way. So that new road is what, you know, this lot is.
But it still has
Sitting on.
frontage on Pemberton, legal frontage. So you can call that side yard, and that's what that legal opinion says.
Yeah, but by proposing this and it gets approved, that disappears for the legal, because now your legal frontage is on the new street.
It's not, no, you still have legal
No,
frontage
your
on
legal,
Pemberton.
no.
You're not reading the opinion correctly.
You know, I've read, they're not one of my favorites, but I've been doing this a long time, Robin, and your legal frontage is on your new street. You can't have it on the old one, because then it's not a subdivision,
You
it's
can
just a
have it on
single lot.
both, and then you can declare one to be side yard. Yeah, I mean, I just.
But if you do declare it, now you're gonna declare your frontage on Pemberton, so you've killed the whole,
Then you can't have Lot B.
yeah.
Yes, you can.
We will get an answer.
You can get it. I wish you would have done this 6 months ago. This has been in the file from day one. And here we are, we're in the, you know, third meeting, done with everything, and now you bring up this issue that we sent in a legal opinion day one. I mean,
Pretty sure we've discussed it
this
before.
has not been discussed. This has not been discussed. You've had that legal opinion with the initial submission, and nobody has brought that legal
Yeah,
opinion out.
we had this with the initial preliminary, which we don't do.
No,
anything
you
with.
did not have it with the preliminary. You had it with the submission of the definitive.
Okay, our first meeting was the 21st of June, correct?
I don't recall the first
That's what I
meeting.
got here. This is meeting 2. So this is 21st. This goes back, the preliminary was done on May 3rd. So. it's not-
But I mean, we're into the review and it hasn't come up. No one's brought it up.
Yeah, we're in the meeting 2, that's all. We'll get an answer.
My other question, you had stated that you were previously, and then I don't want to confirm that you're still doing that you're requesting a waiver for the pavement roundings, not necessarily the subdivision road, which I agree doesn't need a waiver.
Correct.
So are you what is
There is a-
the
there's a
rounding
request
of
for
the pavement?
The pavement would be reduced also, yes.
To 20?
No, it's less than that. Whatever a driveway is, it's like 6 or 8.
Okay,
It's whatever a driveway is required. I think it's 6 feet.
okay. So on both sides?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not anything atypical of a driveway?
It is atypical of a driveway, correct. It's a 12-foot wide paved surface with 6-foot roundings.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask, do they typically show like site distance on the plan? If we've asked for them to measure it and,
Typically Maggie will be in her comments,
That'll-
the site con.
so it'll be, she would request that they put it
Yeah.
on the plan?
We can put it on the plan.
Yeah. it should have been part of hers. Typically, she has the site distance.
I think she's requested it, but I'm not.
It's
I
not
don't
on
know.
the
I
plan.
don't think it's there now.
It's not on the plan, but
Okay.
we have talked about it,
Okay,
what it was. I didn't put it on the plan.
okay,
I can put it on the plan if you want to see it right on the plan.
okay. I mean,
That's
if it's
fine.
something that I think we usually do, I'd like
That's
to see
fine.
it there. Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Mark?
The only question I have, just for clarification, can you just go over real quick what the plan is to address the Mulroy's issue with some sort of screening to that back property? Are you gonna plant? Is there enough there that you're gonna leave? How's that gonna work?
Oh, I mean, I think the comment was, last time we talked about the tree plantings, and we took the waiver back and said we would plant the trees along the property lines. And whatever the number of trees are that are required for the trees, from the tree bylaw, whatever it is, section, we would use those to plant up the property line. We talked about that at the last meeting.
Okay.
So we took that waiver back, so we're not asking for the tree waiver. So,
For the purpose of trying to create some sort of
yeah,
buffer
and
between.
to plant some trees and plant some buffering. Yeah, there's a lot of low-growing brush there that's gonna come out, and so if we plant trees, they'll get some screening. But they are gonna see the house. I mean, I can't screen the house from not being seen. I mean, it's a small lot. It's only, just over 20,000 square feet, and there's gonna be some clearing done, and to build the driveway in, and, I mean, I'm not gonna try and tell you you won't see this house.
Sure.
You're gonna see it. You would've seen it if I moved it up 100 feet, or 50 feet, whatever I could've, if we got the variance.
Right. Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay.
The trees, are you including Bulker Street in that?
Who?
Bulker? There was a letter from, the neighbors on Bulker who were also concerned with the tree barrier.
I think we just agreed to plant them up that right side, all the way up. Whatever you put in the condition, I think we talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. And I know you went over this, but can you just do it one more time for me? The waivers, you got rid of the street tree waiver, number 8.
That went away a while ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you keep 9, which was the,
So we got rid of, I have no size here. So we got rid of the one for performance guarantee, the bonding,
okay,
and the other one for the certificate of monuments, as-built and street acceptance. I mean, there won't be a street acceptance, but we would do the as-built, and we're gonna do the monuments, set the bounds, and whatnot to the roadway. We have to do that regardless of land court. This is a land court parcel. That's gonna be required anyway. And Margaret wants a, as-built of the road and drainage. And I believe she,
so
in
you
one
got
of her
rid of,
comments,
you
she
got
was,
rid of the drainage one too?
excuse me?
You got rid of the drainage one also?
That was all part of that one,
Okay.
yes. And she wanted you to include, and I don't know if you can because it's on the house lot itself, but she was concerned that you would put in the bonding that the leaching pits for the house runoff would be included in the bonding. Can't do that, Jack?
No, we went through that with the Durbers.
Right.
It's private.
That's why I said, I don't know that you
it's-
can do that.
We just,
But there
we
there
can't-
would be
we can't
bonding for
bind.
the portion in the right of way for all that, the drainage on either side, the pavement of the driveway, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
2 comments on the leaching. I think we went through that with the Durbers. If they want to do it under stormwater management, that's where it come, but I have a problem with us always being the bond, and we gotta hold the bond for every other department that doesn't get their act together, so, but we can't do it, because it's
I
not
get it.
part of, very clear, Mass General laws, you only bond what's on the road, can't bond what.
Private property.
Or even if we wanted you to make a sidewalk all the way up Pemberton, we can't bond that either, you'd have to go through the select, anything off-site, we're gonna control what's on our site. Now, we talked about Maggie, talked about this letter. The other thing I wanna point out so everybody understands is, you could build this without a waiver.
Correct.
If we said no to every waiver, you'd be putting in this cul-de-sac with a sidewalk, the full-blown way.
Have the road accepted.
Yeah, naturally, you'd not keep it private, because you're not gonna wanna
Correct.
maintain it. Okay, so the options are A or B. If you get over the hurdle of the legal, that's one thing, but like all of these, is they can be built, and if they get turned down on a waiver, you can still do it. and you turn it back to the town. Okay, just so everybody understands that that's the way the law is. The zoning, the zoning laws for our subdivision control.
You actually have a plan in the set that shows it with no waivers. There's a layout of
Do
that.
that? I didn't think you could. I thought you told me you could. Oh, never mind. That was a long
You
time
asked
ago.
for it,
That was another one. That was another one. I think East Walpole has an exemption from that, Rob.
You gotta pick and choose.
Yeah. I don't know how you said it with a straight face, but anyway, just wanted everybody in the audience to understand that, anybody, butters. Now, with that being said, any people have a question, comment relative to this? If you do it, ask you to come up to the microphone. Name, address.
Let's go.
John O'Leary, 776 Washington Street, Walpole. I have a couple of questions regarding the plan, or the plan submitted. One is simple as terminology. When I was looking over the plans submitted, I noticed that at least 3 pages still listed as preliminary plan.
That's all I have.
Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah.
Good catch.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was something that probably would want to be corrected.
Thank you.
What's the definition of unique? It just happens once in a while? Or? Why don't we go to Conrad's and we'll find out, won't we, Rob?
It says Walpole, not
Yeah, it does say Walpole instead of Westwood. Okay, that's on page 3 of 5.
3 of 5, 4 of 5,
3.
5 of 5.
4,
Oh,
5.
ooh. Home run.
My apologies.
So our 3, 4, 5 were good hitters then.
My understanding is that if they seek waivers, they have to first show a proof plan and then the plan with the plan that they want to present
Yep.
with the waivers.
Yep.
So looking at the plans, it seemed as if page 2 is their proof plan and page 3 is what they want to build. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the first plan is showing you the layouts. And then if you go deep into it, John, on page 4 of 5, it shows proposed layout with no waivers. It shows you the cul-de-sac, the sidewalks.
Okay. Based on my reading of the plans this morning, the proof plan's supposed to show the full 106-foot width for the road, I believe?
The layout is 46 feet.
46 feet plus the two 30-foot rounds?
Plus the what?
Plus the two 30-foot rounds, correct?
Yeah, whatever's at the entrance, correct.
And I came up slightly short on that.
This one because of the angle.
All right, that was one of the angles that,
I'm not sure if that's an issue for that, but yeah.
okay. So you're saying the rounding's an issue?
Yeah, I think it's something that should be raised before the board, whether they feel it's an issue, yes.
That'll be Maggie, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
She wasn't there to ask about it, so I don't know.
Similar
if
to
she is.
Baker?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, John?
In that nature, yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And the other idea I had was the angles that were requested by someone on the new street because it's going in at an angle. I didn't know if Maggie had any comments on that. I thought there was a request that it only be off 90 degrees by so much.
We have a bylaw that if you're under 150 foot offset, you can't have it, but because the way the angle comes in, that was discussed at the last meeting, it does meet that. It's the center line of the roads, correct, Rob?
60 degrees is what the minimum is. It's like 63.
So it can be, as long as the angle of the road is 60 degrees, it doesn't have to be 90, so it can be
Up to 60
off by
degrees.
30 degrees. My figures come up with a little bit over 60 degrees. I think it's off.
Just fine.
I think the angle's reduced beyond 60 by a slight amount, so you may want to check that. I had like 38 degrees off of 90, so that would bring it down to like 54, 52. True, but you have only one straight line, really. It's the portion right in front of the road.
Coming off the curb. Yeah, coming off the straight line.
Got that. Frontage. I know something was mentioned about frontage and setback. Could you indicate what the issue was there? I didn't think there was one.
If you look at the existing house, yeah, to the left side to the other lot is not the 30 feet, because that becomes the rear.
That becomes the front, yeah.
Yeah, you're spinning the house 90 degrees up the new road. So whatever's the front becomes the side, whatever's the side becomes the front or the rear.
Okay, so that's already been raised. Okay. Thank you.
All right, all set? Okay. We'll ask Maggie, check that. Anyone else on Pemmican have a question, comment? All right. All right, so we're gonna go to town council, gotta get Maggie, and we got those two things that we'll ask her and you to verify on those two, the roundings and the angles. All right? We're good to the end of this month. So.
Oh, in the extension. I know what you meant. All right, I'll give you an extension. What would you like it till?
The end of September?
End of September? Sure.
Yeah.
We would
All right.
grant an extension till September 30th.
30.
Are we already booked for September? We can put
Yeah.
them on at 7 o'clock on September 6th, because it shouldn't take.
Yeah. These are just, these three items that, it's a yes or no on these, okay? I'll make a motion to allow the applicant an extension up through September 30th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we will hear this on 9/6, no, is that right? Yeah, 9/6
At
at
7:01.
7:01 PM. That's the only notice, so we'll see everybody who's involved back here on September 6th at 7:01. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so that's. Joe here, he's ready for a break. Joe's not here.
Is that any kind of a statutory?
Well, we could approve it, and if we did, and something's wrong,
I'm
then
not saying you should.
they don't have to give us an extension. She never came back, but if you know there's comments, someone could base it upon the fact that town engineer didn't review everything. As a basis of an appeal. And just to appeal something, it could take you 2 years, so with these guys, wait 2 weeks. I mean,
Yeah, and there's still issues that we didn't hear from her on, so.
Yeah, we weren't going anywhere, but I was just wondering in a general sense.
Yeah, a lot of times you're just better off waiting that extra.
Not appropriate to us, for us to just say, oh, engineering's fine.
All right. Joe's not here, so I guess we can move on, huh?
Okay, this is outside, just to be confusing, outside letters for Jack.
Outside of Butters?
Yeah. This is the traffic peer review.
Whoops.
Yeah.
That's right, I told.
My hands are freezing.
They're always cold.
What is this?
Really? Does everybody have
The rest.
a plan?
I could use a set. I
What
forgot
do
my
they have?
cards.
Only because I gotta get back to my house.
I was so worried about.
I can share mine if you.
Tell me when you're ready, Kate.
No small set.
I don't.
I have,
Oh,
this is the new one.
Thank you.
You owe me, you know. I bet you there's nothing in that bylaw
Just
that
for him?
says you could submit without it.
For him?
yeah, you want one?
No, I can, I don't mind.
That's fine.
Sure.
You want the big one? All right, tell me when you're ready, Kate.
All set.
All right, the hour being after 7:16, we have a continued site plan for 1350 North Street. With that being said, you see Mr. Glosser up there for the applicant. Okay. Yep.
So, just for the record again, my name is John Glosser Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. And here representing David Allen for a site plan for a proposed daycare at 1350 North Street. I think that's 1350 Main Street, which is where my office used to be. But anyway, we submitted back on August 2nd revised plans and a letter indicating what the revisions to the plans were. The revisions were based on conversations and comments from the board at the previous meeting. So I'll just go over those quickly. They're fairly small in scope. I think you find them all on the site plan, which is sheet 3. The locations of the access gates have been added to the chain link fence. So if you look at the plan, you'll see in different areas where it makes sense, there's access gates shown on the plan. There's another revision that I don't believe was part of really the request from the planning board, but it was from the applicant. And that is that speed bumps have been shown in the parking area itself to help assure that cars will be driving at a very slow speed. Additional exit and entrance signs have been added at the location of the entrance and the exit. So there was a comment from the abutter to the right side as we're looking at it from the street, so essentially to the north side. But anyway, there's a comment from this abutter regarding trees along the property line. So we went out and actually located the trees, put those trees on the plan, put the trees that need to be taken down on the plan, so in the size of the trees and the type of tree is on there. One thing the fellows that work for me noted is that a lot of those trees are being overtaken by bittersweet, so a lot of them, whether they're staying or coming down, are not in the best shape. I guess any ones that are on this property that are being overtaken by bittersweet, the owner would be removing the bittersweet from the trees. And then the location of the existing stone wall was clarified. So existing stone wall ends at the pole here. So as you know, I think in the 70s, was it, this portion of North Street was widened along with Fisher Street on the other side. And a lot of the stone walls were moved back to the layout lines, and then a lot of them were kind of disappeared over time. So typically in this instance, what we do is when they remove the stone walls, which will be removed for the exit, those stones are then placed to extend the existing stone wall. So we're showing them being extending from the utility pole. And that would be a part of a public hearing to alter the stone wall. And that public hearing, I believe, is held with the planning board. And then finally, well, two things. There was a plan submitted separately, so it's not part of the set, but it's submitted separately, that shows how the fire truck, and this is actually Westwood's fire truck, which is a little bit bigger. When we did this, my information at the time. Walpole had some turning radiuses on their truck. They had a list, but they weren't sure exactly how the truck was set up. But now that's been rectified, so we can amend this to put Walpole's fire truck on here, which is actually a smaller, it's not a lot smaller, but somewhat smaller truck than that one. But that does show that the fire truck can easily access the site and leave the site. And, but we can amend that to actually put Walpole's truck on there now. And then the final thing was, we did submit the plan to the Board of Health agent with an application for the septic system. So they did require some revision to the plan, so we just simply added that. So really, because of the way the agent interprets the town regulations, the system is somewhat larger than what we showed before. So this has now been resubmitted as a revision, but the system itself fits on the lot, fits in the location essentially that it was shown before. No change in grades to put this system on there. So it doesn't really affect the quote-unquote nuts and bolts of the site plan. It's just simply a leach bed that's taken up a little bit larger area than the bed that was originally shown. So that's been submitted to the Board of Health agent, and then revisions were asked for, and that's been resubmitted. It was resubmitted actually today. So I'm not going to ask her in one day to have to approve it, but I believe it is approvable the way it's drawn. Those were the revisions made to the plan, submitted to the board on August 2nd. And I believe I captured everything that the board had asked for, and could answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Comments from the town departments. Police Department, August 9th. The Walpole Police Department does not have any public safety concerns in relation to the traffic in this case filed with the planning board. From Concom, dated the 10th of August, this property will require a land disturbance permit, as previously mentioned. From the Board of Appeals, dated August 10th, they have no comments on the above referenced matter. From Fire Department, Paul Barry, Deputy Chief, dated the 15th of August, the Fire Department's reviewed the plans and application and offers the following comments and questions. And he says 527 CR 1-18.2.3.4.8 travel in opposing lane states the use of an opposite travel lane is prohibited in the design of all new fire apparatus access roads. The separate page of the drawing submittal appears to show the apparatus turning into the property via the opposite travel lane. This drawing does not provide exit travel pathways.
I'll speak to him about that. That's new to me.
Well,
as far as his letter.
15th. Yeah, we got it today, so we did it yesterday.
Yeah, okay. I'll speak to him.
Okay, and from the Board of Health, at their meeting on August 14th, they voted unanimously on the following comments: that one, the Health Department still is in review stage of the septic plan, therefore cannot make a definitive comment at this time. Two, the board needs additional information regarding the food service plans for the daycare center in terms of where the food is going to be coming from, where it's going to be stored, and how it's going to be handled, properly stored and distributed. And three, the plan doesn't indicate to where the staff will be consuming their meals or taking a break, and we would like some clarification as to where the employees will be utilizing the space for these activities. So,
That came in today, actually.
yeah, we received it today, that was dated today. So, that's what I have from the various boards. We have a bunch of letters from a bunch of lawyers, and we also have the traffic. You guys, you do your traffic?
So, yeah, similarly, and I know it's dated earlier, but we were just forwarded the traffic report.
From the consultant?
And I believe your consultant's here. So we were forwarded it today.
Yep.
So I would say what we would like to do, two things, if we could. We would like to read it and digest it and talk about it amongst ourselves.
Okay.
And then if possible, we'd like to either meet with your traffic consultant either at the site or at some convenient location to discuss the recommendations and how they can be included into the plans.
Okay, so for tonight, traffic is off the table until you go through the peer review, correct?
Correct? Yes.
All right. Traffic continued.
Jack, I think he was here tonight with, I think there was only one meeting,
Yeah, well,
just so that you know.
okay, I know. We'll have to cross that bridge, so. I know our consultant was here tonight. We asked him, but didn't realize. So we'll have to address that.
Well, we wouldn't be adverse to listening, if he wants to read his comments and speak to them. We wouldn't be adverse to that, but clearly that's up to you.
Okay, yeah, he did the peer review, so, yeah, that'll be fine. If you wanna read your comments so everybody understands for the peer review?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm principal with Vanessa & Associates, and we were retained by the board to conduct a review of the traffic study and the site plan that's before you tonight. Rather than go through the entire letter, I think what I'll do is just kind of hit upon the high points of our review comments. In general, we've asked the applicant to make some revisions to the site plans, which I'm glad to hear. Some of the information that was presented to you tonight is consistent with what we're asking for, so it sounds like some of the work has been completed and we just need to review the updated site plans. With respect to the traffic analysis that was submitted to you, and it does also go to the site plan itself, I think what you'll see in terms of looking at our comments is kind of starting with the site itself. When we look at this type of a project, when it's a school-related facility, whether it's a public school or daycare facility, we really start at the site and kind of work our way out from the property itself in terms of assessing the adequacy of not only functionality of the parking lot and then sight lines at the driveways, and then we kind of get to the off-site intersections and what the impacts of the project may be on the neighborhood and on the roadway network itself. Anytime we're dealing with a school and daycare facility in particular, pickup and drop-off operations are probably the most important thing. So a couple of things relating to that and the site plan itself. The application that we had seen, and I don't know if this has changed, is that they're proposing the facility could accommodate up to 100 students. We also look at your zoning bylaw and look at the number of parking spaces that are required for the use, and that's actually not a part of your zoning bylaw. This use doesn't actually have a number of parking spaces, so I know they had asked for a determination from the building inspector. That aside, when we're looking at it from a traffic perspective, what we need to have is sufficient information to demonstrate that with 100 students, staff on site, that the way they're going to operate this site with 36 parking spaces as proposed, a portion of those spaces will be occupied by staff vehicles. How does pickup and drop off operations function at the site with 100 students and let's say 30 to 32 parking spaces? That information hasn't been provided. So again, as we start to look at the site and then work ourselves kind of outward to the roadway network, the applicant needs to submit sufficient information that says if I have 100 students, a certain number of staff there, we have a certain number of vehicles arriving within a 1 hour period, how is that all work there? How many minutes per vehicle does it take to unload the student? What is their process? And then all those cars have to leave the site. So just like you have at a public school campus, there's a very concentrated time period where traffic is arriving, leaving the site both in the morning and in the evening. We need to see some information to see how does that all work? Is the site designed appropriately to accommodate that influx of vehicles and then similarly exiting? Now, working ourselves to the roadway network itself, you heard the applicant's engineer talk about the sight lines of the driveways. We need some more information on those sight lines. We need two types of sight lines provided to us. The first is a sight distance for someone that's just driving along the roadway So as they're driving along North Street, approaching the driveways, can they see a vehicle that's waiting to turn to go into the property? So that's one sight distance we need to see, which is the sight line along North Street. And then what the applicant's engineer was talking about was the sight lines exiting the driveway. Now, as we conducted our site visit there, and I'm sure you visited the site probably more than once, there's the stone walls that were mentioned. There's also a significant amount of trees that are there. So if you go there right now and you look at where their exit driveway is, you can't see looking to the left or right. So the applicant's engineer had mentioned that they've added that information to the site plan, which is great. So we need to see that. We need to see what are the sight lines exiting the property, how is it impacted by the trees that are there, as they mentioned, how many trees need to be removed, and then does the stone wall that's there obscure the sight lines. That's not only important in relation to people that are exiting the driveways from the project, but the driveway, the exit driveway, is very close to Bubbling Brook Road. Now, it's not to say that those two roadways can't function safely next to each other, but what is added because of the proximity of the driveway to Bubbling Brook Road is someone exiting Bubbling Brook Road has to be able to see the vehicle that's exiting the driveway from this property, and the opposite needs to take place as well. So those vehicles need to be able to see each other at all times so that they can see someone exiting. Because as you might imagine, a right turn exiting and a left turn from Bubbling Brook Road, those paths cross. So the proximity of those driveways needs to be looked at in relation to sight lines. So we've asked the applicant to provide some more information on that. Now, as we get off of the property and looking at the roadways itself, the applicant did study some intersections as a part of the traffic study and reported the net increase in traffic the project would represent, but also how that increase in traffic would influence or impact delays in queuing at intersections. Typically, when we conduct a traffic study, at a minimum, we want to look to one intersection to the north, in this case, and one intersection to the south at a minimum, so that if we sign traffic leaving the property, some turn left, some turn right, we pick up what the impacts will be beyond the property. The applicant actually studied intersections all to the south, and that, I don't know if that was something that was requested by the board, but we want one intersection at least to the north to be looked at, and that would be the 109 intersection. As you look at the traffic flows along the North Street corridor, if these are parents that are on their way to or from work and they might swing in, drop off a child, and then continue on their way, the Route 109 corridor, of course, is the quickest way to get to 128 and the businesses to the north and Waltham and such. And so we expect that there will be a portion of the traffic that will head in that direction. And so we've asked the applicant to consider including that intersection in their traffic study. The other reason for that, again, in addressing safety, is that the North Street Route 109 intersection is a high crash location. It's been classified by the Department of Transportation as a high crash cluster location for the period 2013 through 2015, meaning that the number of crashes that are occurring there is disproportionate to the volume of traffic going through the intersection. And those of you that have driven through that location, you might kind of see why. It's the speed of traffic plus the curvature of 109 approaching the intersection. So if we're adding traffic to that location and it's a high crash location, we need a better understanding of what's going on up there and what might be done to address the crashes that are occurring at that location. Again, it's a safety issue, and it's something that should be at least looked at by the applicant and commented on before we address adding new traffic to that intersection. And then I think finally, with respect to the traffic study, there's a lot of reliance on data that's been collected by others, historic data that was collected by the Department of Transportation, including traffic volumes, and we were unclear as to whether speed measurements were also obtained by others. So we've asked for some clarification on that. But I think most importantly, as we look at the traffic study, we need current up-to-date data so that we can take a look at that and validate the information that's collected and make sure it represents current conditions on the roadway, both volume and speed of traffic going by the site. So we've asked the applicant, instead of relying upon this historic data, to go out and collect their own data so that then we can look at the existing conditions that are there. So some additional work relative to the traffic study, some additional work and some suggestions we've had to try to make the site plan work in a little bit more efficient manner. Again, recognizing we've got 100 students coming in to get dropped off over a short period of time. You know how your public schools function. When pickup and drop-offs happen, the same thing's going to happen here. So we need to make sure that that concentrated traffic over a very short time period can happen in a very safe manner, and that it doesn't cause either backups on North Street or certainly backups within the site. We don't want that to happen. And then that also relates to parking. How does parking function during pickups and drop-offs? And then are they gonna have, are they gonna have open houses at the facility, special events? And how does the parking relating to that happen? Because it's not, you really can't have parking on North Street, just given the width of the roadway and the lack of kind of room to be able to get off to the edge of the road. And certainly the same thing would occur on Bubbling Brook Road. So we've laid out a fair amount of comments, but hopefully they provide some guidance to the applicant so that they can address their comments. We'll have the information that we need, so then hopefully we can issue a letter to you, kind of closing out issues, or if there's anything that needs to be open, we can bring that back to the board for your review as well. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but it sounds like I'll be back next time once we have this information.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions? I do have a question. When you were out there, the stone walls, I believe they're on town property. Are those too high?
You know, they may not be, but one of the things we've asked the
Well,
applicant.
I'll ask John, are they on yours?
No, they're on town property.
Are they, how about the trees?
So you can see the trees. Some of the trees are on town property.
All right, so in dealing with the stone wall stays, trees stay, so that's gotta be worked around.
Wow, okay, if that's your opinion.
Well, what do you mean, my opinion? They're town trees, you can't cut them down.
Yeah, I don't wanna get into it, Ms.
John, I'll get into
But
it
you
now.
know,
I mean, when you throw it back at me, if it's for a driveway, I know on a scenic road, you got a right to have a driveway, cut a tree down. But we don't give scenic road approvals for a tree that's blocking entrances. That's not part of the scenic road. You're allowed an entrance on a scenic road. You're allowed to take down the stone wall, you're allowed to have a tree removed. But you're not allowed to take away stone walls or cut trees because they happen to be a problem for visibility. That's, I know you're gonna disagree, but that's the way it is.
Okay,
Done enough of these scenic roads, I don't see what else. You're allowed to get into the property. I think you already have one entrance in anyway, but if those stone walls are too high, you just can't say, I don't want them anymore.
okay.
There is a way around it, and you know how that would be, right?
What's that?
Raise the grade,
Yeah, okay.
all right? But that's why I wanted to ask, because heard the trees and the stone wall, because
No,
that,
they're shown on the plan.
I understand, but
And you can see where they are in
it's gonna
relation
affect-
to the lot lines. And the stone wall shown on the plan in relation to the
the
lot.
only trees I've ever taken down are the ones that are in the middle of a driveway. Because you have the right to get in there.
Okay.
So, I'm all set for the traffic, thank you.
Thank you.
He'll get with you, I guess, right? At some point.
Yeah, I'll be very, very.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll-
Come on up. You're on TV.
Thank you. No, we went through it. Obviously, we were trying to use the older data because you guys had told me with the audience, the 2017 numbers were probably low because of the work that was being done up at 139, up at 109 in the High Street. We looked at the numbers and you were right. That's why I used the numbers from 2015. And that's when we had also done the counts at Fisher and Main Street. And the reason why we assigned more traffic towards the Westwood intersections was because the other intersection was in Westwood, obviously, and there's a daycare center there. So I'm going to respond to all of these, and then with the board's permission, I'd like to speak with Jeff, and we'll work it through so that if we don't agree 100%, we'll identify what the difference is and why, and whether that's acceptable.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. John, you got anything? Are you up?
Well, no, I thought that was very helpful to have Jeffrey explain his letter to the board. I think that was helpful.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like to meet with them and then work this out, and then, as I said, come back with a traffic report and a plan that's meeting his requirements, or
Well, the biggest thing that stuck out with me is why do we need a traffic at Fisher and Main Street? All the problems are up in Westwood.
Right, but as you know, that intersection now, using taxpayer funds, I believe state funds, right, has been reworked, so,
Yeah, it's been reworked, it hasn't fixed it.
well, that's a matter of you know.
Well, you're just waiting a little longer, nice new pavement, nice new,
You got more lanes to wait in.
yes, you do. I guess Westwood doesn't like us, they don't want to put a light there for
Yeah,
no
for some
reason.
reason, there's a resistance to put a light there. That's
Yeah, but they got one a quarter mile down for 2 houses and a hill, but, well, that's, so, you all set with you, John? Okay.
Yeah, I'm all set with, you know, as I said, with the revisions that I made to the plan. I will say one thing, there was one thing I corrected, and Jeffrey sort of hit on it a little bit. When we did submit the plans, there was a little asterisk for the parking, and it did say that it defers to the building inspector. But when I reread that, that really isn't what it says. It says the building inspector or the special permit granting authority. So I think I changed that to SPGA. So it's actually this board, I believe, who makes that determination in the end, not the building inspector, unless I'm reading that wrong. But it's sort of, I think if there's no site plan requirement or no special permit requirement, then it's the building inspector. But I think if there is a site plan requirement, then it's this board or the ZBA, who's ever given the special permit.
Okay. All right, anyone else from the applicant?
Good evening again. My name is Peter Brooks, Saul Ewing, 131 Dartmouth Street, Boston. I submitted a letter to the board on August 8th addressing some of the legal issues that arose at the first public hearing. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if there are any questions, I'm here to answer it or discuss those issues.
Given that, you know, we don't do it until now, and your 2 legal issues, one of them is about whether you can do this, and the second one is about collecting money. So with both of them, we can't deal with, we have to, as you know, we're gonna forward along to our town council.
Understood.
So, and we won't make anything until they rule.
Okay, that's fine. Sure.
So you all set?
Yep.
All right, anyone else from the applicants? No, whoa, you guys for the applicant? Oh. All right, you're all set, you guys, what you present, okay.
We had submitted a bunch of information to Mr. Romeo.
Romeo.
Romeo, thank you. You had concerns over the parking,
Yes.
so just
The
wanted to
narrative.
follow up and see if you had any follow-up questions for us.
No.
Maureen had spelled out, the staging of.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The process, like the gentleman that just spoke to the traffic, the process, you know, the best laid plans, but it will figure itself, you know, if it moves forward, it'll figure itself out. Best practices will figure themselves out over time. But as long as there is a plan in place to deal with what would seem to be an anomaly, and if it was an anomaly, if we were in Florida, it would be, but you know, we do get weather here, we do get snow, we do have conditions that are not conducive to certain staging plans that might be in place. So that's what my concern was in that respect, and still is. But again, just because something's not addressed right now, I'm not a person that feels like they're not going to be addressed by someone. I'm sure the applicant does not want to move forward having a dangerous situation. So again, as things move forward, I think once they get their traffic situation taken care of, and what I heard tonight with the speed bumps and the staging, at least the initial plan, you know, if it moves forward, it's certainly the best option that they have, I believe. So, thank you.
Okay, before, just want to kind of close the legal thing out. I know we have, I assume he's here, the attorney for the butters, is he here?
Attorney Sanders is not present.
Okay.
He did submit a very lengthy document for all of your review. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. He just came in this morning.
Okay, so we have, yeah, we have the rebuttal, we're into the volley time, so that same document question, you're on one side, they're on the other, and we'll submit both legal documents to town's attorney for them to weigh in on them. So that will be sent, okay? Yeah, okay, I think we've taken care of what you guys had, our end. Now it's time for the residents, so any resident or member of the public, just come on up. I just ask for your name and address for the record.
Hamilton, Precinct 5. Is that on? I'm concerned about the traffic. As the former road commissioner, we looked at North Street very intensely over the years. And at one point in time, we looked at widening North Street, which I believe today is still cost prohibitive. You have public land on one side of North Street. You cannot take public land by eminent domain. Therefore, you'd have to take all the land on the other side of North Street, which would involve running into structures. So making North Street wider is probably cost prohibitive. The only other solution that would be fast would be if North Street was made one way, which is unacceptable. So now, if you look at the possibility of gridlock, and I've heard enough debate about the possibility of people dropping off, coming in, some coming early, some coming late. If you have emergency vehicles, ambulances, police vehicles, fire engines going up North Street, because we do cover residents who live off of 109 and are accessible by North Street. And if we have gridlock, an emergency vehicle going up North Street has no path around the gridlock. We have stone walls you can't pass by. We have drop-offs that you can't pass by. So gridlock is a real problem, and we don't have a viable, affordable solution for it. So I would speak against this. I was very disappointed that we didn't vote at town meeting to take this property, 1350 by eminent domain. I would hope that the town would reconsider that. That is a much better solution for the town, the taxpayers and the residents, because taking property to widen North Street is cost prohibitive. It's not something that we could do and afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Bob Runcie. I live on Fisher Street. I was here at the last meeting. I've got here since the last meeting. I went to the town of Westwood and I asked for their latest analysis, traffic analysis concerning North Street and High Road. What is it? High Street, 109. They gave me a survey that was done on Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. 26-page report concerning that intersection. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can have this report. I do want to read just one little line here. Between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8:45 a.m. on that day, we had 1,001 cars and heavy trucks on that intersection. At that intersection, 436 vehicles attempted to cross 109 to go west. 565 vehicles tried to merge with traffic that was coming down from Medfield and other areas. When you read this report, you're going to be very, very surprised on what is happening. I didn't have time. I thought this meeting was going to be held at the end of August, but I was told no, it was going to be tonight. I couldn't complete this report. But I want to get the reports that were made in the past 10 years concerning that intersection. And I think you're going to see an incremental increase of unknown figures. It's just absolutely out of sight. What's happening, and I think that this should be brought up and the town should look into it, is that every single town that borders Walpole with their building and their advancement in building and in commercial properties, all the people, or most of the people, that want to access 95-128 are gonna use Fisher North Street to 109. They're not gonna go through Dedham, they're not gonna wanna go through Needham. Dover is having their problems, but this is happening every year. It gets greater and greater and greater. The other thing, on Bubbling Brook Way there on the road, when you go there in the morning, when school is open, you'll notice that there will be at least a half a dozen cars parked on both sides of that street with their children, because that's a bus stop for the kids. There's no sidewalks there. They're not going to just leave their kids out on the street. They wait there until the bus comes. So these are the things that I think that you should start looking into. I'll leave this report with you. It's a very, very in-depth report. I think this is the latest one. This was done for the town of Westwood last year because of the intersection that they tried to improve. You saw it, I'm sure you've all been down to the new intersection there. What they did was they're trying to take the traffic that wants to go east away from the traffic that's going west, trying to merge it so that lanes stay open. It'll work for a while, but until there's a traffic control light at that intersection, and a traffic control light at the other end, Main Street and Fisher, this is going to be a problem that's going to grow incrementally every single year. There's a subdivision that's about to be opened on Fisher Street. I don't know how many houses there. They're talking about another one off of Fisher and North. This is something that the planning board has to look at. I'll leave this right here for you, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Good evening. I'm Ann Sawastowski at 49 Woodruff Road, Walpole. I feel as if my comments are going to be extraneous after hearing all of that, because I was thinking, is this going to be a year-round facility, or will they stop in the summer because they see it's a school type of a thing? And I think of like probably Friday night or even any evening in the summer, Bubbling Brook is open, and if it's hot like it has been, nobody's going to want to cook. They're all going to go up to Bubbling Brook and jam that intersection even more. So if you are coming to pick up your children or whatever, I don't know, wait and get a meal at Bubbling Brook. It's probably be taking an awful long time, but I really think that they have to look at this with very, very big magnifying glass to make sure that everything works the way it should be, and not put it in there just because, oh, it's an open space, let's put something in it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sue Shockett, 1340 North Street. I actually had a question that I think is first for Mr. Glossa. You said you resubmitted the septic plan. I was wondering what requirements did you use now? How many gallons per child?
10.
Yep, so 10 gallons per child. So now you have it as a daycare facility?
Yeah, the Board of Health thinks it's not. They don't like the definition of school. They want a daycare facility.
Okay. All right, that was one question. Thank you. The other thing, the residents of Bubbling Brook Road have asked me to point out that when the school buses stop, and maybe this will be addressed by the traffic study, the school buses stop on the opposite side. They're heading south on North Street for Bubbling Brook pickup. So the children then have to cross North Street to get onto the bus. And right now, I can vouch for this too. I've seen it. Cars sometimes pass the bus. There's not good sight right there right now. So I just hope that gets picked up in the next traffic study round. And that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Anybody in the, Sarah, do you have any questions, comments?
Oh, yeah. I gotta make up for Joe not being here.
All right. Joint preseason game anyway.
All right. I'll just go quickly through some questions, comments that I had before that I didn't see addressed. This has been discussed before, but just want to highlight that you need to go through the scenic road hearing with the selectmen regards to the stone wall and trees. I was interested to hear about the health department, so we eagerly await their report to us on the septic. As I mentioned, I think this is a critical issue for this site. I noticed you added snow removal on the plan, which is good, and I would just be interested in the engineer's comments on the runoff to North Street to make sure that that's not an issue.
So there's no runoff from this site to North Street?
If you're, I saw only one location for snow removal, like for the piling up of the snow, and that's parallel to North Street. Is there another location? So when that snow melts, where is it going?
So the snow, the parking lot drains to the infiltration basin that's at the
Okay,
rear.
but that little landscape island between your driveways, it's noted snow removal. Sheet. Snow storage.
I can add spot grades
That's
to show
on, that's on sheet 6 of 7.
Okay, if you like, I can add spot grades to show that that landscape island will slope back into into the parking lot. So there should be no runoff from this site going to North Street. It all is designed to go back, so we can add some
Okay.
spot grades to make
And maybe
sure
it's
that-
fine, I would just
No,
be
it's a
interested to
good
hear
point. We want to make
Maggie's.
sure that when the contractor builds it, that we don't show up and see the slope going the other way. So it's a good point. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not just trying to placate you. I think it's a good point. to,
Okay.
Show that, so.
Okay. And then on the gates that go in the back, I'm glad you added that, but there's sufficient width with the condenser right there at the gate for fire? They have, I'll be waiting to hear their comments on that, but I just want to make sure that.
Okay, I'll talk to them.
And then I have a couple comments on the traffic. But first, I didn't have a question for the Mr. Dirk, but I just wanted to comment that I thought it was an excellent report. I thought he really brought up a lot of really important, you know, issues and things that we need to investigate, and I thought it was very well done. So I just want to highlight a few things that I noticed in the report. I think the biggest, well, there's several things, but one of the things that I want to highlight is that he requested an analysis of the parking utilization and vehicle queuing. And I know recently you've submitted another narrative of your plan for pickup and drop off, but I really think the town needs to see that complete analysis showing the breakdown of, you know, when the children are being dropped off, and make sure that the site will safely accommodate all the children and parents and staff throughout the day.
No, that's agreed, and that should be in the traffic report, whether it's an appendix or actually part of the report. It should all be in one document, so it's easy to find. So we'll make sure that the interior circulation and how all that's going to work is part of the traffic report document, so that you don't have multiple documents to look through.
Right. So then in that analysis, you're going to go through your hours of operation, your staffing throughout the day, pickup and drop-off times, typical number of hours that children are at the daycare, number of staff vehicles, and then approximate time of pickup and drop-off. The new narrative noted a pickup time of 5 minutes, and I think Mark kind of talked about that before with children under 5 years old, it's very difficult to pick up and drop off an actual human in that time. You may get lucky on some days, but I don't know. I'm the mother of 4, and it's not my experience that you can easily do this routinely in 5 minutes, you know, from parking to back out. And also to highlight that we need updated traffic measurements. I think that's important. Definitely, we need to include the intersection at 109 and North Street. This is extremely important. Consideration to traffic entering and exit Bubbling Brook Road, also very important. And a question for your, in the initial traffic study, it notes a peak AM and PM hour with, you know, numbers close to 40 on each, 36, 40, roughly. I just wanted to ask, is that truly just 1 hour of peak time, or would it actually be 2 hours? And I just would like to see that, especially as Maureen, the applicant, has talked about that she's going to stagger the time. So I wonder if maybe there's more than just 1 hour of peak pickup and drop off. And those were my main comments, but I look forward to the peer-reviewed traffic study being addressed, because I think there's a lot of very important information relating to the safety of Walpole residents and the residents, you know, traveling through Walpole.
Okay, so your last comment, that's something you want answered in the future, not right now.
About the peak AM?
Yeah, is the peak?
Yeah. Is it truly just 1 hour, or?
Okay, we'll take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions that I don't even know if we can get to answers tonight, but they certainly are something that I'd like to see some insight on. The first one is really, again, logistical, but is there a plan in place, or has it been addressed when we are at that peak time, whether it's good weather, bad weather, winter, summer, doesn't matter, where parents are not going to be just quickly parking on Bubbling Brook Road because they don't want to wait in the line? Anybody that's ever sent their kids to the high school knows that all the streets across Common Street are a huge drop-off and pickup area because people don't want to wait to pull in front of the school. So what they'll do, and me being guilty as well, we'll say, look, go across the street, I'll pick you up on Mass Ave. So you get, now, high school age kids running up and down the street, but you have cars parked up and down the street. Now, this is going to change because people are going to leave their car, run up the street, walk into the daycare, step in front of the traffic that's trying to queue in and out, get their kid, walk back out, back down Bubbling Brook Road, and then leave. Has that been addressed as something that won't be allowed? How would we stop that from happening? And, you know, has it been thought of? I'm sure it's been thought of, but how are we addressing that?
Well, to my knowledge, it hasn't been addressed as of right now, but it will be addressed in the next document that you see. So just let me know if I'm not hearing you correctly. So a plan in place for people who don't want to wait in the parking lot or can't wait in the parking lot for some reason, it's full, or it's full of snow, or it's full of something.
Or the queue, because if you've gone by Walpole High in the morning, the cars are waiting to pull in, so they're lined up all the way down Common Street.
Yeah.
If you don't want to wait, you zip by that line, you
Right.
pull down Mass Ave, and you let your kid out. Yeah.
Right. So we'll come up with some reasonable and viable, real plan of you know, what these people should do and can do if those circumstances
Okay.
happen.
All right. And the second thing is, you know, I don't doubt the applicant's ability at all to run this business, and, you know, all the power to you. I'm one of the people that, just being on economic development as well, I love to see someone go out and try to open up a small business. So I respect your desires and I respect your ability to do this. However, any business, whether it's a restaurant, a daycare, a construction company, anything that you start on your own is very difficult. And if this does move forward, I wish you success. What worries me is if, God forbid, you're not successful and you decide to leave this business, what happens to that building? And is that building then only allowed because of the Dover Amendment and the zoning change to allow this business to go in a rural zoning district? Is that the only thing that this very large commercial structure can be used for? Because no one's going to be able to move in and use it as a residence, or will it be able to be used for other commercial ventures if this business, God forbid, doesn't succeed?
I'd like to answer your question, but I think it's a legal question, so I really don't think I should answer it. I don't know if Attorney Brooks wants to answer it or not, but I would just say this: there's whatever happens on that lot, on that piece of land, has to be something that's allowed by zoning or by other law.
Yeah, and so my concern is not that she's not going to be successful, because I honestly hope you are successful if this moves forward. But again, running a small business is not easy. In the attorney's opinion, and if you don't want to give one, we can, I don't need answers now, but because of the way this would happen, is that structure, new structure, only allowed to be a daycare and therefore will sit vacant in perpetuity until someone else tries to come in and do what she couldn't do? That's worrisome to me, only because of, I hate to see any building sit empty, and especially when you're only allowed to do one type of business in there. So that's my question.
So the short answer is it would only be permitted for a child care facility. It wouldn't be able to be used for anything else. There's huge demand for child care facilities. If she fails for some reason, there's large companies that are buying them up all over, and it would just go under new ownership. But it would, for any different use, it would require a permit, whether it's a variance or something else.
But I'm wondering if we would even have the authority to allow another use. I guess that's a question that needs to go to our attorney.
Residentially zoned, it would have to be.
It would have to be residential unless it's a daycare.
It could be a school or converted to a church, but it would have to be something permitted.
Something permitted in that, right, okay. And again, I'm not trying to cast any doubts on your ability to run that business. But I have to think down the road as to what would be there if, God forbid, you didn't succeed. I'm good.
Okay.
I completely agree with them on the 5-minute drop-off pickup estimate. I think you need to revisit that for accuracy. In the traffic analysis, I'd like to see the process for deliveries, the routing, the time frame, all of that included.
Okay, that's a good point. I know you brought that up before.
And I think with, so much hanging out there, we really can't move forward without legal opinion and further traffic review. In the legal opinion, I'd like it included, an opinion included on the omission of the 4 items in the developmental impact statement. There was nothing checked off as far as impact for noise, property value, historical, archaeological, and neighborhood character and aesthetics. And I feel those are all affected, and I'd like that included in the legal opinion. That's what I got.
You all set? All right, I know you've got a bunch of stuff to do, John, between traffic, the legal, well, it's in our court, Board of Health, Fire Department, your plan. One thing that's kind of bothered me all along is I'm looking at the infiltration basin, and I'm looking at the grades versus the slope. If I do my little measurements correctly, you're at a grade of, well, at the back, you're dropping 12 feet in about 28 feet. It's a hell of a drop. It's almost a 45-degree angle. Okay, that's what you see on highways. But you got listed here is wildflower mix. I don't know anything that's going to hold like that. I mean, that's something that I have an issue with because of that. The other thing I don't necessarily like about this is looking at the grading, okay, is that on the backside some of it's going to go the other way. Now, the next point, John, I'm going to make is if I look at the top of the basin and the elevation of 94 and the bottom of your basin is 87, so we're talking 7 feet, but the distance down to your contour of 87 is about 12 feet. It's not very, that's a pretty steep slope. What I'm looking at is, aren't you going to blow out from the side? That's what I'd be concerned with. Anytime you get anything like that, you get a big, it's, right? There's a chance for a blowout.
Okay. Well, we can, when we compute that, we're only computing what's going down.
Yeah, I understand,
So
but
we can put
been involved in a few blowouts in some of my jobs that happen, it just blows right out the side, as you know, and especially with a slope like that. And I don't think a couple of flowers is gonna stop it from going down to the people's yard next door. And that's a big issue. I don't care if it's daycare, whatever it is, that's just from a engineering viewpoint.
I appreciate what you're telling me. So I think what the solution is that there's some sort of an impervious barrier there, because for drainage, unlike septic, you can't use what's going out the side as part of your calculation. It's only what's going down. That's only what we're using for the infiltration of the water. So there's nothing really stopping us from putting a barrier there, you know, something that's not gonna be able to.
Well, I'd also like to see elevations showing the vertical and horizontal, and not in the sewer, you know, 1 and 40. Just give me a normal one that you, to scale, so, and show a cross-section and how you intend to do it. And I don't believe that wildflower mix will even stay.
Right, so what I'm saying is there the ground, there's going to be sort of almost like a retaining wall.
Okay, but you do,
That then is buried.
Yeah, we got two problems, the blowout and the slope. What you're gonna have to treat that slope with for it not to wash away.
Right, slope at the rear, stabilize, you don't like you want something more than the wildflower mix.
I don't live next to it, but I don't wanna see it, you know, the thing just wash down into my yard. And it will never, you'll never get it to take. I mean, I think of some of the ones you see in the highways, you go down 295 Rhode Island, all you see is stone up on those, and this is what we're talking about, something to that. It's a very difficult one to hike up too. So, that's my comment. The other ones, they'll be worked on. With that being said, we're gonna need an extension, and we're gonna make a continuance. So, you need an extension, John? If you're the one who gives it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. End of September?
Okay. Yep. All right. Make a motion to allow, take action up through September 30th, an extension up through September 30th, 2018.
Second.
A second. Any further discussions? All those in favor of that? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and what do we got?
September 20th.
What's on that night?
Cana Home, Pinnacle, Rojo Car Wash, Rustic Road.
Yeah, that's fine. How many does John have?
Cana Home,
Two.
Pinnacle.
3.
2, this will be a start.
So we'll put him early and real late.
I'll be over at
Phil,
Maybe you know I'll be at
you're gonna bring a present of O'Brien's retirement
Oh, I
party.
was there. I didn't get to
I know, he's no good to you anymore anyway. All
I
right.
don't need him anymore.
Can I make one comment, just in light of something that was brought up? I mean, Mark Larson, 11 Plain Street, Walpole.
that was before you when we did the Home for Little Wanderers little expansion that they did down there a number of years ago. And one of the issues brought up on that was also the timing of deliveries and, you know, trash pickup and everything like that. And at the time we had talked with them, the planning board and everybody had said, no early deliveries, no early trash pickups. I leave for work before 6 o'clock in the morning. Their fruit and produce delivery comes often before 6. Trash is at 6 o'clock in the morning, running up and down the road. So they said, oh, we won't have any of the early deliveries.
I live across from a school, and that's why I brought it up, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, and so it's they said they wouldn't do any early stuff, and it's constant. And as for queuing up, there's still issues on Lincoln Road sometimes, and in areas I'm playing with when the buses, the small school buses are coming in. They come in early. They're not always in on the property. They're still sitting out. And I mean, that's random, in the afternoon. But I know it's obviously not parent pickup. It's it's a little different. But some of those issues are still they're still out there, even though they said they wouldn't do certain things, and they are. So just in light of that. So, thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. And if you're a delivery guy and you're early, you're just gonna sit there until it's your time, so you're gonna take up space anyway.
Yeah. Oh, they run down, pick the trash up and come flying back down Plain Street again. I think they're in the kitchen early enough to take those deliveries too. So.
What time,
What happens
Kate?
if we set a condition like that and then they just don't comply? Is there any recourse
Building inspector.
at all?
You'd have to have the building inspector. No, the police one. It's not a police matter.
The police will deal
Because
with the
technically it's
trash.
not illegal.
You'd have to have a bylaw when you can and can't do it, and that'd have to be enforced by the police, but
Yeah,
they won't go
we
up
do
for that. Yeah, we're gonna go up because there's a trash truck there.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, we'll continue this public hearing on September 20th at 8 p.m. So that will be the next time. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Let's say that,
I get what you're saying.
let's say that
So
she
the bylaw
agrees to
says 7
conditions,
a.m.
right? Let's say she agrees to conditions, she fails. Someone else comes in and opens up a daycare, a corporate daycare.
Goes with the property.
Goes with, so they have to comply to whatever she agreed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a 7 a.m. ordinance, but it doesn't matter. They come whenever they want to come.
Yeah.
The bread truck comes at 3 a.m. The trash truck, the milk truck.
What do they do? How do they get in?
They
bread
must
truck
have-
leaves
they
them in
must have
front.
a code, or they must have a key or something, because nobody's there and they get in.
Haven't you ever seen those big bags of bread that's left in front of
The
restaurants?
police, is it police? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
That's, and it sounds like
It's good
it sounds like the motor on the truck, like
Another Jake break, yeah.
going up the hill.
Well, the other thing you'll probably find, especially with daycare, because it's not like a restaurant that go up and all. So if you're running between 7 and 9, you're pretty much telling your vendors don't show up there, because they can't deal with them either.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be before 7 or after 9.
I called the church about the trash, because it was so bad, because at 4 a.m. they bang, bang, bang the dumpster. And I called and said, can you guys call them and just ask them? Like, I didn't call and complain. And they said, they come whenever they want to
We
come.
have break or all this is.
Yeah, are we done or what?
No, we get 2 things to
I
sign.
think the tape's rolling.
Yeah, it still is. All right. We gotta sign South Street and sign Main Street.
Should have asked him for a break.
What?
Should have asked him for a break.
Night.
Hi, friends at home.
We can just, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, we're just signing plans. Do you guys care?
Nope, not one bit.
You want me to clear on something?
No, I just, if the tape is still rolling,
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
still
only
rolling.
thing. Yeah, so people are listening, is something else gonna happen, or? Might as well just
We have
end it.
The only 2 things we got is to endorse 2 plans, South Street and Main Street.
Have we ever seen one of
The original?
The guy there for sure.
Her father.
that the guy?
Yeah, he owns it. He's from, I think he's from Fox.
My $1,800 plan?
I need, yeah, I need 3 copies.
You know, I wish you people were talking to the microphones, because you can't even, like, your nice long cords, pull it closer.
Hey, front of house guy. Come on, give us some gain out there, will you?
These don't go out there, do they?
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't, they don't. Hey, I sit up front and I can, get them old and I can realize I might be deaf. But it's hard, it's very hard to hear.
Yeah.
It's true, I've been in the audience as well, it's difficult.
Balance, because once we get it up to a level that's like loud in here, suddenly we're too loud on TV and you can't tell what they're saying.
Yeah, but if they spoke into the microphone, pull the microphone close to you when you want to talk.
You can't split
that's a good
that
idea.
signal?
That's what they have them there.
You don't have a front of house level?
Love to try it,
From
try it
here
next time.
back into our machine and then out.
Yeah, but see how
That's
far it is in your
ludicrous.
tip? I used to-
That's ludicrous.
I used to be a lecturer in my
You just
church.
split it.
And when I get up, pull my, I make sure I
I
had
do.
it right there, or I could talk into it. I had a loud voice anyway, so they could hear me.
We'll try it next time for sure.
I hope so. All right. We'll see you in September. Oh.
See, part of the argument,
Kate, don't talk on your microphone. They hear
No comment, is your comment.
And we have a mole within our,
In our midst.
yeah.
makes it look like he's not listening,
Yeah,
but he is.
Sure would take him a long time to put that easel away.
He already hit record on
Yeah.
his iPhone.
Anyway.
You used,
You have a good night.
Yeah.
used to work for Diane Feinstein? What's the matter, don't you guys pay attention? You know about the mole, the Chinese mole that worked for her, that was an agent for China? He was a driver for over, what, 10 years?
I don't know about that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Diane Feinstein, senator
When
from
did this,
California.
when did this come
So
out?
you don't read the right stuff. You probably, you gotta read Drudge and Breitbart. Diane came out in her driver was an agent.
Recently?
Yeah, it was, Google it up, her driver. She was a Chinese agent. She fired like 2 years ago. The FBI
Drudge
came.
and Breitbart, these are your sources?
It was also on the
Okay.
real source, like the New York Times and all that, but it was there.
Did she drive a delivery truck?
No, she was an agent.
She delivered
She was an
bread.
agent. She was an agent, but nothing happened. You see why? Because 350 people weren't worried about. All right.
Okay.
I gotta get my hat.
Bother you people for about 3 minutes?
Can't talk about the case.
No.
Okay.
Mostly not.
Okay.
Charles A. 1354 North Street, right next to this. Up the street on School Street, the old Ingersoll Rand building. It's been vacant for whatever. Could that be used for these people? Is there anything wrong with it? Is there?
No, that's
they
in
owe
the-
$1 billion in taxes. I mean, is it a toxic waste site? I mean, something.
No, I thought the woodworkers owned it. They used to. I think they still do. Because what happened is when they moved out, the woodworkers, no. Did they buy it? They were leasing it. They were leasing, I know, the warehouse space. A friend of mine worked for them, and I don't know if they bought it, but yeah, that's in a business district. That's an allowed use.
The problem that they will have there
Is
is
that in
part of their business
central
plan is
business?
probably to catch people on the way,
To 109,
make
yep.
it convenient, yeah.
It's not too far off, East Street. It's just,
Always suggested to them. I know, it's a nice spot, nice
It would
pocket.
come better coming from you, only
Well, that's,
guys that
we
needs-
can't do that.
No.
But you
Who
could
could?
suggest it to them. I mean, to me, if I would, you might have to do some remodel naturally, but you got a parking lot there and everything else. It's a nice spot for anything.
You got access from all four directions and stuff, and, I mean, nothing's been there for I don't know how long, not that I know of anyway, so.
It's
Nice
just
to see
changing
something
the,
there,
you know what, it's just
whatever.
changing the group of residents that come in and argue about the traffic.
well, it wouldn't be the same, but
I know.
yeah.
Yeah, because all the ones at the AQV, they'll have a lot of kids going there.
My biggest thing is this, the 300-year-old house that we're next to is being torn down, as well as this being a debacle that will fail, but anyway. Thank you.
Okay. There's a site plan that was, Oh, she doesn't Liz stamp these?
No,
She don't stamp site plans?
No.
Okay.
no,
Make a
there has
mo-
been no appeal taken.
Yeah.
We do have a letter.
Oh, we have a letter, okay. Make a motion to endorse 505 South Street.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 816.
You want to just leave it and we'll just sign it right there?
We have one more, I believe. We have
Nice,
the
yeah.
famous Rick American plan, or Dan American plan coming up.
This one is, yeah,
Just the one?
yeah.
We got a spot for us to sign now?
Is that what it was? He didn't have?
Yeah, his father actually had Westwood. Remember that time? He said, "Well, why can't you sign it? It says Westwood, Rick." No, that's only for, I didn't put that on that other than that. Oh, that's all right.
Instead of passing it?
I think it's on there anyway. No sign for Joe.
It's funny, my kids don't think I have a quiet voice. I'm sorry? I said, it's funny, my kids don't think I have a quiet voice.
No, I'm sure they don't.
There you go, baby. Hurry up, rock and roll.
So I think that's my biggest concern.
I can look at the schedule.
That is what happens if she fails. They have this big building up
See
there,
if-
they can't do anything.
See if any Thursdays
We
conflict
can't,
with the...
It's not our problem, but it is a consideration because they're invoking a rule that
Right?
gives them special privilege.
Yeah, but it's, Walpole doesn't allow use variances, so it's not like,
Right,
you know,
so-
a doctor could come in and say, I'm gonna
Exactly.
set up shop here, we're not
Well, you
gonna allow
could,
that.
because you're allowed to.
Would
Be
have to be
doctor
a school or a
professional.
church?
You can be a professional in your house. It's like the
So
old
he'd have to
doctors
live
or
in it.
dentists.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd have to live, exactly.
He or
He'd have
she
to be
would
a-
have to live
Yeah,
in
but
it.
I mean, they can't just, you know,
Open a
create a
doctor's office.
6,000
No.
square foot office building with surgery center and.
No.
So you'll just have this big building sitting there forever.
Or it has to be one of the allowed uses, like you said,
So
a
you get a
daycare, a
church.
church,
Some-
what else
Make
is
a
allowed,
motion to endorse
agriculture.
1327 Main Street.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We didn't hear about Diane Feinstein, huh? That
I
was
didn't
on all
hear
the
that.
papers, it was.
Yeah.
She got rid of her in 2014, I think.
When did it come out, like the last week?
Like in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
It was a Chinese, they said national spy or something. And she actually, this woman would actually represent her when she couldn't make some meetings, so.
She was her driver and she'd represented her.
Well, yeah, a lot of,
What is this, Russia?
well, it depends on what the event was, I guess. I don't know. It's all right, California's burning anyway.
That's where my kids are.
I know, don't say that, Sarah's kids are out there.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Around Los Angeles.
It's not there, isn't it to the north, like San
It's-
Francisco way up?
Well, there's stuff in San Francisco. I think there's also stuff Southern California. I think. Yeah, it's
There's
all.
always fires burning in California. What are you gonna do?
Well, because they didn't thin the forest like they
So
should.
he took it, I
There you
think.
go. But it was all, I don't know which one was started by the person with the flat. Did you hear how it started?
Oh, yeah.
Take one of our folders back. Yes.
They had a flat in their car while they're driving, so the rim sparked.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that could happen to anybody.
Marks.
Yeah, but
He
it
doesn't
wouldn't
like to
keep
give up.
burning if it was anywhere else.
Yeah.
Ah. Yeah, that was my.
He just found
manila-
out he's
that was
supposed to
my
give
manila
up these.
folder supply house.
Who? Did I?
Everything.
Jeff, can I record it, please?
Can we adjourn so we can go home?
Me?
Yep. Need a motion?
We do? Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.